What's up, guys? M. Jones back in the house again with my main man, Stiggs Jr.
How's it going?
It's going. So today we're doing something new, something novel, a new approach. And what we're doing today is doing a retrospective review.
For the second time.
For the second time. Don't worry about that. That means nothing to you. It means something to us. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about the retrospective review of the whole series of Scream. Probably one of the greatest horror series of all time. We're going to talk about all four today. And we're going to do it we're going to kind of just talk about each movie individually, just briefly. And then we're going to go over like the superlatives, like the best killer, the best movie out of all of them, our least favorite characters, funny lines from the movies, simply put like that. Mm-hmm. So the very first thing we have to do is we obviously have to talk about the first one. So the first one was literally just called Scream, 1996. It came out December of 1996. And I remember thinking, this movie looks really scary. I remember my older brother was allowed to see it because he was 17 and I wasn't. I was too young, so I couldn't go see it. I always wanted to see it. And I just remember thinking this movie looks pretty cool because the chick from Party of Five's in it, which was Neve Campbell. And oh yeah, that chick Monica from Friends, she's in it. That's cool. David Arquette, he's in it. That's cool. I just remember thinking it would probably be a pretty cool movie. But I had no idea what this movie would do for the rest of the time that movies are made.
Yeah. Go ahead. I mean, look at the front. You can't even tell it's going to be like a real scary movie. All you see is, you see the face with the hand above the mouth, and you see all the characters in the front.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, one thing that always bothered me, look at Billy. Look at Billy on the front with the mustache and beard. He didn't have that in the movie.
No, that picture was taken after.
Another thing is that they market the movie as if Drew Barrymore is a main character, and she's really not.
She's not. She's considered a cameo because she's a known actress in a movie for a brief time, and I don't think even gets any credit. Doesn't get a lot of credit for the movie. But yeah, so this movie, basically, I think it put Dimension Films and Lionsgate on the map big time.
Well, actually, Miramax was the I guess the big company.
The big company
was the big part,
okay.
And then Dimension was the subsidiary of it.
Oh, okay. So, well, I just remember thinking this movie was outstanding. The killers in this movie. Which we'll get to later. We just want to give you brief things about this. I just remember thinking this movie would be really cool to see. And I remember when I finally saw this movie, I saw it at home, and I ordered it on pay-per-view. Remember back in the day, it was $98, $99 were the channels to buy on pay-per-view. It was like $3 or $4. I remember begging my mom to watch this, and she goes, I'll buy it on one condition: you actually watch it and don't run around like a scared little bitch. I'm like, first of all, language, mom, and two, I won't do that. I promise. So of course I put the movie on. I'm so scared. I run upstairs from my downstairs living room up to the kitchen, and I'm like, hey mom, do you need anything done right now? She goes, go back downstairs and watch the movie. I'm like, oh, yeah, I know that. I'm just saying, I'm not scared or anything, Mom. I probably went up to see her 9 times. But I was so scared of the movie. I just was freaked out. I was 10 years old when this movie came out. So I was just really, freaked out by it. But it was such a good movie. Such a good movie.
Yeah. By the way they market it, you don't know that the Ghostface costume is in this movie.
Yeah, because you would think the killer's face would be this face. But it's actually Drew Barrymore, right?
I think it's Neve Campbell.
Neve
Campbell?
Might be
Neve Campbell right there.
I don't know. It looks like Drew Barrymore. The big face? I can't.
I think it's Neve.
Either way, you have no idea what the killer is. And if you look at the back, you still don't know who the killer is.
Yeah, even the way they market the back
there's no Ghostface.
You can't tell.
So the first time you see Ghostface is when he or she kind of scurries along inside when Drew Barrymore looks in. And you're like, oh my God, what's that? It was so freaky. Then you figured out it was a slasher, which means, it was an actual person doing this. So I just thought that was so awesome. But such a great movie.
Yeah, the one thing that, and I still kind of get goosebumps from that opening scene, because of just how terrifying that would be to be all alone in a house on the phone with somebody who can see you.
Right. I want to know who I'm looking at. What would you say? Oh. I want to know who I'm talking to. No, that's not what you said. I remember sitting there no, that's not what you said. I was so scared.
First time I heard that, and I watched it with my cousin. I'm like, what did you just say?
I'm like, Nev, you need to run. Or Drew Barrymore, you need to run because he definitely said, "Who am I looking at?" I was scared for her. I wasn't even there. But yeah, Roger Jackson did the voice of all the movies, and obviously the first one, and his voice is just chilling, and it's cold, and it's very very, I guess, monotone, if you want to put it that way, and it's very flirtatious, even like you said. Like, it's just different. It's a weird vibe.
Yeah.
But he's so good at manipulating. His manipulation tactics are A++.
I'll tell you what, though, the violence in this movie is incredible.
Very violent. Very
Absolutely violent.
We'll get to that with the killers. We'll get to that in the next part. Okay. So that came out in 96 of December, like we said. So then Scream 2, much because of the success of the first one, they had to put a sequel out 1 year later because you got to keep, strike the iron while the iron's hot. So this came out in 1997. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think this came out like in the winter of 97, so like right before
almost less than a year.
Yeah, it was almost like just like a year later. And I remember thinking, oh, that sucks. They're going to make a sequel. They're going to ruin it. I have to say, this is my favorite sequel to any horror movie. I mean, Halloween 2 is way up there, yes. But I love this movie mainly because of the killer, which we'll get to in our second part of this. We're just giving a brief synopsis now. But I love this movie mainly because of the killer/killers. I just thought this movie was really good. It was basically when Neve Campbell went to college her freshman year from being in Scream when she was a senior. And I just thought this movie was outstanding. I loved everything about it. And obviously the first two kills of the movie is, it was Jada Pinkett Smith and Omar Epps. And the way they died were just brutal.
Oh, yeah.
And just absolutely brutal. And tell me what you're talking about with the public killing.
Well, this is the one thing in the franchise that a person gets killed in public. Like when Jada Pinkett realizes that she's sitting next to the killer, and
which I thought was an awesome part because he has his jacket on. God,
she sees the blood. She gets the blood all over her hands, and then he pulls the knife out and stabs her. And then she gets up, and then he starts stabbing her again. And everyone's watching. They think it's some kind of like a stunt.
Kill.
Oh yeah, and he's ripping her apart, and it's just happening in front of this whole theater, and nobody thinks it's real.
I thought it was real.
In front
I thought it was
everybody.
real because I was watching. I thought it was real. I just remember thinking this movie was great because, there was just a lot of cool parts. For it to be a sequel, it had a lot to hold up because Scream was so good. But I will say, in this one, we didn't really talk about the character in Scream, but the character of Randy, who was played by Jamie Kennedy.
Who we met
in real life. He was a little psychotic, but he was cool. Loved the big guy. And he's like, Jesus Christ, you're huge. I'm like, I'm here too. But I remember thinking Randy was the coolest character in the first one because he was kind of a movie geek and knew all about horror movies and the rules of horror movies. And in this second one, sadly, he dies in it, and he's killed by one of the killers that we'll get to next. That I just didn't see that coming because I thought he was so good for the series. Don't kill him off. I would have thought Deputy Dewey would have been killed before Randy was.
Right.
Because I liked Dewey. I liked Randy way more than Detective Dewey, or Deputy Dewey, who was David Arquette.
He's not a cop in this one.
Yeah, I just didn't really care for him in the whole thing because I never liked David Arquette. But I was really sad Randy died because I thought he was so great for the movie. But yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, this one it definitely lives up to the original for sure.
Right.
It's some more brilliant writing by Kevin Williamson. I'll give him that much.
Agreed.
I'll tell you what, man. Just with these two, like, Wes Craven knows how to make a movie.
Right, they could have stopped right there.
He was awesome.
They could have stopped those two.
Wes Craven, Kevin Williamson, that is a perfect duo. Excuse me.
Perfect, yeah. Sadly, only Kevin Williamson's left now. Alright, so I guess we have to talk about this hunk of shit. So Scream 3 came out about 3 years after the second one, which was in 2000. And I remember I was really excited to see this.
I was too.
I was really excited to see this. I remember I snuck in the movie theater to see it because I wasn't 17 at the time. I was like 14 or 15. But I remember I snuck in with friends from high school, and I thought we were hot shit. But I just remember thinking this movie's gonna be great. The only thing I liked about this movie was the very beginning, the whole part with Cotton Weary, who was played by Liev Schreiber. At the beginning where he gets killed and his wife or whoever. Because they had Roger Jackson's voice was utilized for obviously the killers, and they kind of tricked both of those people. They tricked Cotton Weary and his wife into thinking it was their actual voices. He just changed the voice, which I thought was different, not bad, but like I love the beginning of this, but that's it. Like nothing else about this I liked, and I talk about how it was toned down because of Columbine.
Well, I know the Columbine shooting. We all know that tragedy that
April
happened
'99.
In '99, and that was right around the time they started to make this.
Well, they're going to release it then.
They were going to, yeah, I believe that.
Right.
And they toned down the violence in this a lot. Like out of all four movies, this is the least bloodiest.
Easily.
Out of all of them. And I don't know if you mentioned this already, but this is the only one in the series not to be written by Kevin Williamson.
Right.
And I think that's the major downfall of this one is that...
Who wrote it?
Aaron Kruger,
Yeah.
who wrote like the couple of Transformer movies.
Shame on him. His movie was terrible too.
But it didn't feel like the first two.
No.
And
it felt like a TV made for TV.
It did.
It was just like, when's the joke gonna come? Like when's Ashton Kutcher gonna say, "I punked you"? Like I just was like waiting for that. Like I couldn't take this serious. Scream 1 and 2 I took so serious. I'm like, this is scary. Now I know we've gotten older and we've matured watching these movies, but I'm still scared now, and I'm 30 years old. Like I'm scared of the stuff now from 1 and 2. This one I'm like, kill him. I don't care. Like I'm not sad. I'm not worried.
I know. They did up the comedy in this one a little more. I think just to
yes.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to this too with the killers again. This movie, I hated the killer in this movie, and mainly because I didn't like the actor at all. I didn't like him at all. We'll get to that. We'll get to that next. I just did not like him, and I don't like him in real life. I don't like him in other movies. So I was like, oh, he's the killer. Son of a bitch.
And the random Jay and Silent Bob cameo.
Love that. Kevin Smith. Love Kevin Smith. He's so good.
He's
Jason
cool.
Mewes. Kevin Smith's a great director too. But anyway, so this movie is just. The only thing creepy about this movie, the beginning was cool, and then the creepy part was Neve Campbell had dreams of her mother that was killed. Had dreams of her, and she kind of came back, and it kind of looked like the chick from The Ring, kind of like in this long dark hair and a nightie, and she would just stare at her outside of her window. That was terrifying.
That was pretty.
I was like,
scary,
check please. Like I was kind of scared of that, but I just didn't like it. I mean, I don't think I'll probably watch it. I might watch it.
And one thing
Halloween's coming. I might watch it.
One thing I noticed about this one is that Neve Campbell's not in this one that much as she is in the first two.
Shame she's a smokehouse.
So she's in a couple of scenes here and there throughout the movie, but then like the whole third act is her movie. But Dewey and Gail pretty much run the show in this. Like,
Gail's Monica from Friends, Courtney Cox.
So Dewey and Gail, this is pretty much their movie, and then Sydney just kind of.
Shame on them for making it their movie. It wasn't very good, but I have to say it had to have been because of the writing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The guy who wrote it didn't know his ass from the hole in the ground. I just didn't like his writing whatsoever. I wasn't into it.
Yeah. So.
And remember, Patrick Warburton was in this movie.
He played Joe, Family Guy.
From Family Guy. Yeah, that was a good part. But he died, so how's that good?
So this is supposed to be like the concluding chapter of the trilogy.
A shame.
And, of course, 11 years later, we came out with...
the fourth of Scream. Scream 4. So, I remember Steggs came down to my crib to come watch this at the theater. We were so excited for this. I think we were both excited and also nervous because it's like, don't ruin the franchise. But it was bringing Kevin Williamson back to write this. And it brought Wes Craven, obviously, back to direct this.
His last and final movie.
Last and final movie he directed. So, obviously, I know all the original actors like Dewey, David Arquette, and Gail, who was Courtney Cox, and of course you can even add, Neve Campbell, obviously. She's mainly the protagonist. They said this has to be a good movie. This has to be good. This has to be written well for us to want to do this movie. And I see why. You don't want to waste time with something shitty and just get your name credited for a shit-ass movie. You don't want that. You don't want your name to be associated with a 7% Rotten Tomatoes movie. You just don't. I would say this movie's better than the third one, but it doesn't touch 1 or 2. It doesn't touch 1 or 2.
Absolutely.
I would say the killer or killers in this movie were pretty brutal. They were really brutal for their deaths. I mean, they were just as bad as the first and second. Third one was a joke, but the fourth one, they were brutal for their killings. I'll give them credit for that. I'm going to say I was really shocked by who the killers were in this fourth one, which we'll get to next. I was not expecting who they were. I was guessing someone else. We'll get to that again later. I will say that I think out of all the beginnings to every Scream movie, this is the worst. I thought it was really corny.
All the false openings.
Yeah, I was like so confused. And another thing I didn't like about this movie was the fact that it was so modern. It was so like now, like you have the Facebooks and the Twitters, and you're texting all the time, and your cell phones. Like it's like, back in 1996 when Scream was made, you had to get to a house phone or a pay phone to call for, if it's help or if it's on the other hand, like just a normal phone call. Like in this one, if there's a killer coming after me, I'm just going to lock the door and then call 911. Like I'll be okay because my cell phone's fine. But like back then in 96, you couldn't do that. So like it made it more suspenseful to watch that movie. This one, I'm like, Nev, just call the cops. Call with your cell phone. Like you'll be fine. The killers will run. Like
Absolutely.
I wasn't too scared of this then, just because of modern technology. So that's the thing I didn't like about this one. But I did like the movie because I thought there was some good acting. And I liked, Marley Shelton was in this, Wendy Peppercorn from Sandlot, Alison Brie with beautiful breasts. And then, of course, I think it was Adam Brody I think he was in the OC, the show The OC, and I liked him too. But besides that, I don't know, that's it for me. I don't know, what do you want to add?
A couple things I want to add is that this one always kind of reminded me of Halloween H2O, and I'll say that because it doesn't really mention any events from the second or the third movie. It always references the first movie.
Wow.
So you could look at this as a direct sequel to the first one, even though it is in order.
You could, yeah.
But it references the first one so much that you could just watch the first one and then you could pop this one right back in and be fine with that.
Right.
Another thing that you mentioned about the brutality of the killers in this one,
Brutal.
the violence in this one is way over the top.
Way.
Going from Scream 3 to this.
But I liked it.
Yeah, it was definitely bloody.
It was accurate.
This might have been as bloody, or if not, a little more bloody than the first one.
Wow.
But
well, yeah, I would agree.
The one thing I didn't like is that they used digital blood.
Yes.
Digital stabbings, like digital knives, and that was just kind of that was kind of cheap for being 2011. I like practical effects. I don't.
They
really
could have done something else for sure.
I don't really like that CGI.
No.
Crap.
No.
And so, what would you like to do now? Would you like to
so
talk
we're
about?
We're gonna talk about the killers of all. Let's start with Scream. So we'll talk about the first. So the killers in this, obviously, we have on the title of our video is spoiler alert. So if you've never seen it, shame on you. But if you haven't seen it, please God, go see the movies. And if you haven't seen the movies yet, just turn us off right now because we're going to talk, big boy talk now. So in this one, the killers were Skeet Ulrich, and his name was Billy in the movie.
There he is, right there.
Skeet Ulrich, his name was Billy, who was Nev Campbell's boyfriend in the movie, Billy Loomis. And then the other killer was Stu, his best buddy, played by Matthew Lillard. Mm-hmm. And them two had to be, I think, the best duo for.
They had the best chemistry between.
They had the best chemistry. Their killings were always on time.
Two best friends.
Yep, they knew exactly how to feed off each other. I thought they were great for a duo. Mm-hmm. They're not my favorite out of the whole thing. I'll get to that, but I know Steggs' favorite is Stu. Right?
Mine is definitely Stu. I just love how he always had that party guy atmosphere about him.
But he was nuts.
He was absolutely psychotic at the end of the movie.
Yep.
Because you don't see that coming at all. You wouldn't think it would be him, but just
because the party guy is usually the fun guy, usually the safe guy.
Mm-hmm. But the brutality of Billy and Stu, with how brutal they were, coming from hanging people from trees, gutting them, stabbing their principal, closing people in garage doors.
And that's his girlfriend.
Yeah, that was
Stu's girlfriend was Rose McGowan.
Oh my gosh,
she was destroyed.
That was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So I know your favorite was Stu. I haven't said my favorite yet, but those two were awesome in this movie. They were great as killers. Loved it. Mm-hmm. Go to the bottom. So Scream 2 was the sequel to the first one. And the killers in this were, again, turn this off if you happen to fast forward and go right to this part, because we're going to reveal this. The killers in this movie were Timothy Oliphant, who played Mickey. He was a film student that had a lot of classes with Jamie Kennedy's character, Randy, and he was pretty psycho. And then the second killer was actually Billy from the first movie's mom, who was just Mrs. Loomis. It was played by the girl, I think her name's Laurie Strode? No, what's her?
Laurie Metcalf.
Laurie Metcalf, thank you. Laurie Metcalf, who was in Roseanne, and she was...
Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck. You know if you'd see her. But anyway, she was kind of looked like an apprentice to Gail to try to learn how to do journalism and how to market herself as a journalist.
She was an annoying character.
She was annoying, and you wouldn't think that she would be able to do something like that because she was so annoying. It's like, you seem like you're so innocent. Mm-hmm. But I remember when they revealed Mickey as the character, he had the face and he pulled it off. He pulled it off
real slow,
and he goes, "Don't you know history repeats itself?" That was just, I was like, wow. I remember going, yeah, like that in the theater. I was so jacked up for that. So I thought that was such a cool part, because he had blood coming from him, so he was hurt too when he was trying to kill the people.
He was in the car crash.
Yeah, he was in the car crash. It was just scary. It was just so scary, and and the fact that he killed Jerry O'Connell, I was very excited because
shoots him out of nowhere.
I never liked him in any movie. I don't like Jerry O'Connell. I'm not a fan. So I was like, good for you, Mickey. But yeah, he was my favorite killer out of all 4 of the movies. I think he's the best.
And the one thing that makes him the creepiest is that he had nothing to do with the Woodsboro. No relation to the Woodsboro murders at all.
No,
he's just an absolute psychopath.
Yeah, and he was good. He was very good at what he did,
and he did the majority of the killings.
Yeah, and he was the calm. He was always the calm guy in the movie. Like I never thought it was him once. I didn't. I kept thinking it might have been Jerry O'Connell, but I never. But I was also like 12 when I saw it, so you know. But I didn't guess Mickey. But like I thought it was great that he was the killer because he was really scary. So yeah,
absolutely.
And then Mrs. Loomis, the other killer, and her only kill that we know was Randy in the van,
and she kills Mickey. Kind of.
She quarter killed Mickey. Yeah, you can say that. Okay. Scream 3. Christ. We hate talking about it, but we will.
This is the only one of the Scream movies that actually had a solo killer.
1.
Which I was always hoping there'd be 2 in this one.
So there'd be 5. So they kill each other.
I was hoping there'd be 2 in this one at least, but it just turned out being one guy.
It was Roman.
Who is in turn ended up being Sidney's half-brother, which... Why would you write that in there?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And first of all, we didn't hear about you at all, Roman.
The one thing I didn't like about the motive of this killer is that he was, shut out in the cold by Sidney's mother. So he wants to take revenge on Sidney. So it says that...
It's not Sidney's fault.
It's written that, Roman gave Billy and Stu the motivation to go kill, Miss Prescott. And I just thought that was an absolute cop-out. Like...
It was contrived, very cheesy.
I didn't like that writing right there.
No, I didn't either. That's Mr. Krueger.
I choose not to believe that Billy was, motivated by Sidney's half brother.
Yeah, there's no way.
Get out of
There's
here.
no way. And also the killer Roman is played by Scott Foley, who I never liked in any movie or show.
There's nothing malicious about him.
Yeah, he's just
a random guy. And that's
the whole movie's like, oh, hey, guys. And he was, directing films, right? Was he directing?
He was the director of Stab 3, which they were making. And when he first pulls the mask off, it's like, wait, who is that? Roman's only in a few scenes.
Yeah.
So, and he's got glasses on in the movie, so you don't really think it's him.
Right.
He
just looks like your typical, he does crew at Princeton, and his dad's a doctor, and he hates his dad. And he goes home and gets really wasted. Like, he's just your typical frat guy. Like, I hated that he was the killer because to me he didn't seem like he was psychotic at all. Like, I thought he was a joke. Like, I'm like, okay, he's not the killer. He's just fucking around. Like, I didn't buy it. He was a killer. And remember when the movie's over, I'm like, wow, he was the killer. Okay.
Now, I know in Kevin Williamson's original treatment they were going to bring Stu back. Somehow, you saw the video I sent you, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how they were going to do it, whether it be Stu surviving the TV being thrown on his head, or
which would be impossible.
A Stu lookalike, or Stu's twin brother, because Matthew Lillard was actually paid to be in Scream 3, to be the killer, and they could never fulfill that for some reason.
Stu's twin brother Drew.
Could you imagine?
Or Pew. Look out for Stu's brother Foo.
Yeah, that would have been neat to see Matthew Lillard come back.
Yeah, But if you want to know a little funny trivia, Matthew Lillard can be seen in Scream 2. Even though he's supposed to die in Scream, he showed up in Scream 2 at one of the college frat parties. You have to look closely. He's there.
Yeah,
trivia.
I was actually watching one of the Scream documentaries, and Matthew Lillard talks about how someone comes up to him and goes, "Hey, you're in Scream 2." He's like, "No, I'm in Scream 1." And he goes, "No, you're in Scream 2. You're the guy at the party."
Yeah.
And Matthew Lillard's like, "You need a hobby."
Yeah. Or sex life. So, Scream 4. Holmes, what do you think?
Like we talked about earlier, the killings in this one are absolutely brutal. More blood.
Tough kills.
Like it was absolutely, it was brutal. But I want to say that the killers in this one, which you wouldn't expect, I kind of had an idea of who it would be, just from watching it. But
I didn't.
It turns out to be this little psycho bitch right here, Jill.
Played by Emma Roberts.
And Rory Culkin, who played Charlie, Macaulay Culkin's brother.
Younger brother.
He plays Charlie. And those two, what kind of bothered me about them is that, they have a stuntman who plays Ghostface, obviously, Dane Farwell, who's a big man. He's probably like 6'2", 200 pounds.
Large man.
And so obviously those actors don't play Ghostface.
Because they're just tiny.
they're like 5'2", 5'3" in real life. Those two actors.
They're small.
And when they finally unmasked themselves, it's like, wait a minute.
Were you on stilts running?
Yeah, so that never really sat well with me, with those two being unmasked.
No, and because of that little fact that Steggs just said, like, I never thought for a second it'd be Charlie and Jill, and mainly because of the size issue. But, like, I thought the killer was Adam Brody, who was on the OC show. He was a cop. I thought it was him. I really did.
Mm-hmm.
And I never expected two killers. I did not expect that. I expected Adam Brody. That was it. Call it a day. Because his body fit more of the frame as the killer and the actual stuntman. So, like, I agree with Craig, or Steggs. I just did not like that at all. I didn't like that it was these two small people and all of a sudden the killer's massive. Like, what? Like, doesn't happen that way. It does not work that way. So, yeah, I didn't really like that either. But I still liked it more than 3.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it's rewritten. It was written by Kevin Williamson again, so that's kind of what brought it back to its roots.
Right.
And it went with the two killer, synopsis.
Right. So yeah, so
formula.
that's basically our retrospective review of Scream from 1996 all the way to 2011. It's definitely a classic series. You have to watch it. I mean, obviously we've been talking for like 26 minutes. We could probably talk for 5 hours about this, but we will not. We'll spare you. But we just wanted to kind of do a little retrospective review. Just kind of give you our 2 cents on what we think of this. It's definitely, I know, like, one of his favorite movies, and this is definitely one of my favorite.
It's in my top 10.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite, like, horror movie series. You know, I even takes the cake over, like, Halloween and the Paranormal Activities and the Freddy Kruegers and the Chuckies and the Jasons. I like those, but I love these. You know, because I think I was alive for it. I experienced it in the theaters. Not all of them, but most of them. So that's what we wanted to do. But anyway, besides doing this, is we had a little trip today. We did a little field trip. And where we went was a little place called Best Buy. I'm sure you've heard of it.
And FYE for your entertainment.
Or FI. Or yeah. Either way, we went there because we want to please you, the audience. So we're going to go over from Best Buy. We didn't buy much. You know, we just got a little bit because I just had an update on September 16th. I think that was a Wednesday, so check that out. But we just bought one thing apiece at Best Buy, did we not? Stace, go ahead. What'd you get?
I actually did. You pointed this out to me, and
I did.
I didn't think I was going to get anything at Best Buy.
I thought you had the movie. That's why I almost didn't say anything.
I did have it on VHS, maybe DVD. I'm not sure, but at $9.99, as soon as you pointed it out, I had to pick up Joe Dirt.
I thought you had it.
I thought this was an absolute. It didn't do too well in for the critics, but I thought it's hysterical. I love David Spade as this character.
I didn't love the movie because I'm not a David Spade fan. If you ever look up my top 10 hated actors down in my channel, he's in it. I don't like him at all.
I like Christopher Walken's character.
Clem, he's the best. He's the janitor.
Awesome.
He's a psycho. Like he's good in it. But I didn't love the movie. A lot of people think I'm nuts for that. I didn't really like the movie. I liked Christopher Walken. That was it. I don't know.
I like there's one part that always cracks me up is when Kid Rock burns out his car and he gets the dirt all over. He sprays Joe with all this dirt from the road. He's like, "Oh, dirt! Did I get you?" He's like, "Nah, I'm cool." He's like, "No, you're not."
Yeah, you got dirt all over you. Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it, but it's a good pickup. It's a good pickup. I thought you had it. That's why
$9.99.
I wasn't gonna say anything because I thought you had it. So the one that I purchased today, I saw it the other day and I didn't grab it because I thought I had it. So I did a little inventory on Wednesday and I found out I did not have it. I was like, shit, I could have got it for $7, but I had to get The Fugitive. Now this is a 20th year anniversary, 20th anniversary of this movie coming out. Whenever this was sold, I absolutely love this movie. I remember renting the VHS of it and just watching this over and over. We rented it from Movie Merchants. And my brother and I and my mom, we'd watch this over and over because it was a great movie. And I remember this was the first time I really saw Harrison Ford because I wasn't old enough to watch Indiana Jones, so I didn't really know that. And I didn't really watch Star Wars either. So Harrison Ford, to me, when you say the word Harrison Ford, I think the movie The Fugitive. You know, Dr. Richard Kimball. So I love this movie. Tommy Lee Jones is excellent in this. Catch me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Tommy Lee Jones won an Academy Award for this because he played U.S. Marshal Sam Gerard, and he was amazing in this movie. The two were great in this. You know, it was almost like Robert De Niro and Al Pacino in Heat when they sit in the diner and have a meal together and they talk. It's kind of like how Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones were in this because they had so much respect for each other, but they had to, one had to do to the other. You know, it was just, and I love this movie. And it was $7, so check it out. I'm sure there's a lot of cool extra features on here, so definitely check it out.
We don't really like U.S. Marshals that much.
No, second one. I'm not a Wesley Snipes guy.
It wasn't really a sequel; it was a spin-off. Kind of,
yeah,
based on.
I'm not a big Wesley Snipes guy either. All right, so we went to Fye or FYE afterwards, and they have some really good prices and sales. So we both got movies on sale, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got.
Did you get yours on sale? Well, it used to be 17, not 7. That's good. So, Stags, go ahead.
Well, I was looking for a couple of the Scream Factory Blu-rays. If you want to pull that Halloween one out right there, we'll explain what Scream Factory is too.
Oh yeah.
So Scream Factory is a little subdivision of Shout Factory, which makes DVDs and Blu-rays.
Shout
and they always have these cool slip covers and they're like collector's editions. And the artwork on them is incredible.
Beautiful.
Always have cool special features in the back, and they do a great job with these. But the one thing that's not too good about these is the price. The price is always a little too much.
Scream Factory?
Yeah. Scream Factory, I mean, they do such a great job. It is actually worth it, though. It is actually worth the price. But
I guess.
If you're there to buy movies, you don't want to blow your whole wad on one Blu-ray. And I didn't really want to buy anything from there because either every movie I was looking for was sold out, or they didn't have it, or just wasn't in my price range.
Preach.
So I was looking for Scream Factory. They Live. With Roddy Piper, and it's another John Carpenter.
The late Roddy Piper, sadly.
Yeah. And they didn't have They Live. They had it on DVD, but I don't really like buying DVDs anymore because I just love Blu-ray.
Done.
So they didn't have They Live. They didn't have. I'm trying to think what else I was looking for.
People Under the Stairs.
People Under the Stairs. They didn't have that either.
Shocker. They had Shocker,
which I did purchase last week.
Right.
Still haven't watched that one yet, and I'm actually excited to check that one out.
So what'd you get?
After looking, we're probably in there for almost an hour.
Yeah.
I was looking through everything. And every time we see something, it's always like, oh, classic.
It's like a classic.
So I've only seen parts of this when it first came out on TV, but I got Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. And I'm guessing this is a spoof of the Johnny Cash movie, Walk the Line.
Yeah.
And I
think I want to try that cocaine.
I caught little tidbits of it, so I'm actually kind of excited to watch this again.
My favorite part in this movie.
I do like John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly in this movie, my favorite part of it is when there's cocaine out, he goes, I think I want to try that cocaine. It's so funny. Yeah, I thought that was great the way he said it. But yeah, you'll enjoy it. So the two movies I got, one was because I have so much respect for M. Night Shyamalan and I love, and I found the Blu-ray of Signs.
Excellent movie.
Scared the shit out of me at that Spanish birthday party and the little thing just walks by. I scared the shit out of me.
That was the scariest part.
I'm like, oh my god, what was that? That was really scary. So I'm glad I got this because I love Joaquin Phoenix and Mel Gibson. I like Mel Gibson, but I really love Joaquin Phoenix. I think he's an incredible actor. It was, as you can see, it was like $7, and I had to get it because I didn't have it anyway on Blu-ray. So I was really excited to get this one. And while I was there, I was trying to find Unbreakable on Blu-ray because that is probably one of the best M. Night movies and it has an incredible twist. I had to order that on Amazon because they didn't have it. They had it on DVD, so I didn't want to do that. So I got that coming for the next update.
The Village was pretty good too.
The Village not bad, yeah. So the second one I got was The Three Stooges. The
movie. $5. How could you go wrong?
Right.
You can't go wrong.
I've never seen it. And Steg says it's good. So I was like, all right.
Oh my gosh. Will Sasso as Curly,
the no hair guy.
One of the best things I've ever seen. I laughed real hard at this movie. The Family Brothers made this.
And it's PG. That's what's crazy.
It's incredible. I laughed real hard at this. I think you'll enjoy it. I'm
excited to watch it.
For $5, you can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. So yeah. So that's what we did today. I know this is probably a longer video than normal, but we had a lot to talk about the whole Scream
series.
Tell
us what we're going to see tonight.
Tonight, check back because we will have a in-theater review of
Black Mass, starring.
We don't be racist here.
Sorry, African American Mass.
Thank you.
Starring Johnny Depp.
Okay, so we're going to see that tonight, and we will either have an in-car review on the ride home, or we'll come back here and do it right here. So stick around for that. Make sure you check that out. But till I see you again, take it easy and bye.
Goodbye.